Blues Matters here again. We have Gina Coleman, lead singer of Misty Blues.
Hi there.
Welcome. Where are you today?
I'm on the island of Nantucket, which is off the coast of Massachusetts, the eastern part of the state.
And what are you doing there?
Right now I'm vacationing a bit, but we just finished a couple of shows on the island. We come out here every year, and then we drag our feet before going back to home so that we could avail ourselves of this beautiful island.
So a festival then?
No, just a couple of shows. There's an outdoor kind of brewery venue called Cisco Brewers, and they have a wonderful outdoor stage, and so we performed there over the weekend. And then we had an evening club gig down the center of town at a venue called the Gaslight, and that was a lot of fun. So two very distinct type of gigs. Yes.
Yeah. And what do you prefer? Do you prefer festivals or intimate gigs, or does it matter?
I think generally I'm more aligned with the club scene, but I love a good festival,
Mm.
I do. I think it all matters about how hot it is, because when I'm outside, the second I open my mouth, my pores open up. So it can get pretty uncomfortable if it's really, really hot out. And then, in a festival, it's a roll of the die in terms of sound engineering and whether or not I can hear myself properly. And when you're on a festival stage, you don't have a lot of time to try to dial in what you like to hear. So it's kind of get what you get and make the best of it.
Give us a brief kind of history to why you wanted to be a musician and where you are today.
I fell into being a professional musician. I received a dare from a friend to get up on stage and sing a song at an open mic night. I went up, I took the dare, sang the song. I was eyeing the closest exit in case people did not care for what I did. I can make a fast exit. But it turned out to be, they turned out to like me, and I actually won that open mic night that first night, and that's all she wrote. I've been studying music since the age of 5, when my grandfather gave me a piano and lessons with Mrs. Horowitz. So I've played piano from the age of 5, and then a whole host of other instruments since then.
So the singing didn't start. There was other instruments, was it?
Yeah, no, the singing didn't start until after I had graduated from college.
Interesting. What about influences on your style?
Well, I love the blues growlers. Those are the folks that really resonate for me. So, like Big Mama Thornton and Big May Bell, but also Bessie Smith, those real powerful voices, more aligned with my contralto voices are the ones that really speak the most to me. And it's their music that I felt that I could perform well, given the timbre. Yes.
And are you from a musical family?
Well, my grandmother was purported to be the next Marian Anderson. But by the time, I was around her, life was very hard. And so I never actually heard her sing, but everyone in the family said that she was a phenomenal singer. And my uncle was a saxophonist, a very fine saxophonist. So yeah, music has been in the backdrop of my life and in my family. I grew up in the South Bronx during the time of hip hop, the birth of hip hop. So that was interesting. But I also grew up in a neighborhood that was predominantly Puerto Rican. And so the music that was really prevalent in my childhood was salsa music, the music of Celia Cruz and Tito Puentes. Yeah. So I have a great fondness.
You can hear that, and you can hear that a lot in your albums.
Yeah.
Would you say you've got a particular style of music?
I think we are creating our own style of music in a way. I am completely a blues artist in my heart. And I think when I write lyrically, the content is blues, and in structure is very similar to that. But there are other genres of music that, like, as you mentioned, that I that I really love and the other members of the band love. And so we try our best to infuse bits of that in the core of the blues that we are writing. So maybe we call it blues fusion.
And how did you get the band together, Misty Blues?
Well, in
When you
where
first
I
start?
live now, and where I started Misty Blues is in Western Massachusetts, in Berkshire County, Massachusetts. So there's an incredible, kind of a small area, an incredible body of musicians around here. So just as I was starting out performing, I got to meet a lot of exceptionally talented musicians, and as I started to amass my band, it was pretty easy to gather a group that was like-minded in what I wanted to achieve.
And what about going on stage? When were you first on stage as an artist?
As an artist, it was almost a week after, or a couple of weeks after that first dare. That's when I'm like, yeah, I linked up with a guitarist, and we started our own duet called The Siblings, and we did some folk covers, some classic rock covers. Yes, for a while, and then I wanted a bigger sound, so I wanted to cultivate a band, and I started a band called Cold Connection, and we did kind of acoustic folk funk music, and that was a lot of fun, and we were very, very popular in our area, regionally, for some years, until in the summer of 1999, I received an invitation to be a gospel singer in a theater production of A Raisin in the Sun at the Williamstown Theater Festival. So they had me singing gospel tunes in between the acts as the sets were being changed. And that was really a very transformative moment for myself and the birth of Misty Blues, because the lead actor at that time in that production, Ruben Santiago Hudson, gave me a CD collection at the end of the run of that show. And the CD collection was called Men Are Like Streetcars. And it's a 46 song collection of all female blues artists from, I believe, like 1928 to 1969. And I listened to that collection, and it just made sense to me. So I went back to the guys in Cold Connection. I said, let's change things up. Let's become a blues band. And I just really, off the top of my head, said, let's call ourselves Misty Blues. And honestly, Misty Blues started out as a female blues cover band. We did almost all the songs in that CD collection I was gifted, until, before, we got our blues sea legs under us. And that's when, when I became much more comfortable and knowledgeable about the genre, that's when I started writing my own blues music. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say the next transformation would be to write songs. When did you start writing?
Well, I was writing songs for Cold Connection, so that was it wasn't kind of foreign to me. But the whole writing process is very unique for me. I don't ever sit down to write music. Music just comes to me, in dreams, as the car. The car is a very powerful place for me to create music. Just, different road wear patterns, or if it's raining and the windshield wiper patterns, and it triggers something in my head, and then whole songs and lyrics come flooding to me. And I rarely sit down to write something. And if I do, it's generally not something that I intend to perform. It's for someone else.
That brings us nicely to the new album.
Yes.
I want to talk about the new album, Other Side of Blue.
Yes, The Other Side of Blue. It's funny because we've had, I've mentioned on a few occasions, there have been some naysayers about our approach to the blues, that it's not traditional. And I agree that it is not traditional, but it is based on the foundations of the tradition. So we open and close the album basically with two exceptionally, you cannot doubt that these are blues songs.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I wanted to put out a statement. I'm like, yes, we can do real traditional blues. Yes, we can do that's totally in our wheelhouse. And we like to diverge from that as well. So you'll get it all in Other Side of Blue. You get a number of very traditional songs in our kind of way. You know, our way is a little unique. And then we diverge a bit, all with, you know, lyrically, like I said, you know, the content to me is always hardcore blues traditional.
Well, talk about some of the songs. The first one, I've got Vices.
Yeah, I've got Vices.
Well,
Actually, that one came to me as I was on my driving to my hairdresser. Sometimes when I think about how much I pay my hairdresser, it felt like a vice. So yeah, that it's just a song that came to me as I was driving. And yeah, it talks about the things that we struggle with and the things that probably don't elevate us, but we can't shake it. And in terms of vices, I think it is not a reflection on my own personal relationship. By the way, yesterday was my 24th wedding anniversary.
happy anniversary. I was going to say, I saw that.
Thank
My,
you.
oh my.
It's a long time. It's a long time.
What's the secret to a good relationship then?
I don't know if there's a secret, but it's just like letting each other do what each person is passionate about and kind of working around that. You know, my husband's been a rock star, but he's also been with me many years before we got married. I think we were together about 10 years before we got married. I say we were together. My husband says, no, I was your roadie for 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, how does family and band juggle? Does it ever balance out?
Well, when you birth children that are in your band, yeah, it does work out. Yeah, no,
Yes.
it's an industry, you know, my son Diego's in the band, and, you know, my daughter and my husband are very much a part of the back engine that it takes to run a group, and, you know, with merch and inventory and all sorts of stuff. I mean, yes, there are non-family members that do other stuff. Like, we can't do it all, although I'd like to, but it's just not possible. But so Vice, going back to Vices, it's the story of a woman who has a troubled relationship, and she views her relationship similar to some of the vices that, you know, drinking or what have you. It's in that relationship falls in that same bucket of, it's not good for me, but I can't seem to not do it.
And trust ain't given. Where did that come from?
You know what? I think that's just kind of a regular thing in my life. Yeah, you just you have to, you know, you have to earn my trust. I just don't give it willingly, because that just has not been fruitful for me in the past. So it is, I think, just one of those life lessons. You know, you have to put in the work to get the rewards, and, you know, loyalty and trust are, you know, it's kind of go hand in hand.
Three Mississippis. Where does that come from?
Three Mississippi. So that Three Mississippis was, I wrote with my son Diego. He did that was one of those weird ones where the lyrics kind of came to me without really super defined music. And so then I just reached out to Diego. I'm like, what do you hear when you read this? And so that's where how that engine came about. But Three Mississippis is a common phrase for me. And it's something I've used for forever. I'm like, instead of just give me a minute, I'll be with you. And I'm like, Three Mississippis, you know, that's just a 3 count, and I'm with you. You know, just can you pause for a second? And it's just something that anyone who's in my circle has heard me say time and time again. And I think in my subconscious, I'm like, I gotta put this into a song at some point.
And you'll never feel my blues.
Yeah, I mean,
Talk about
everyone,
that.
you know, you internalize, everyone's blues is their own. Yeah. And that's also kind of a wagging of the finger to the folks that wag their fingers at us. I'm like, you can't possibly know what my blues is, and I won't be as bold to do the same to you. You can internalize your own, and I will grant you the space, and I would love you to grant me the same space.
It sounds like you've had problems with the music industry in the past, or
Well, if you've been in the music industry long enough, yeah, you will have had problems. And going on 26 years just with Misty Blues, I've had my share. I've had my share. But you know what? I don't wallow in it because it has given me a lot of material.
that would go on to Saving Grace then?
Yeah. Saving Grace. Okay, so that was a cool one. Saving Grace came out of a sound check. It
Ah,
came out of a sound check. We were doing a show at the Adams Theater. I think it was last year, in Adams, Massachusetts. And Rob, our drummer, was asked to check the toms, go through the kit. And so he was asked to, do the kick beat, and he was doing a kick beat, and I'm standing there. And then I'm like, started kick, clap, and then all of a sudden this song just came to me, and I, content wise, I'm not sure what was the motivation behind the lyrics, but that's just what flooded to me with the rhythm of the kick drum and then a clap. And then I'm like, ooh, this would be really nice, very stark, maybe just clapping and a bass line. And okay, how about a little just swelling organ behind? And then just as many voices as I could get in a response to the lines. And that's what happened. So this is one track where all the guys in the band sing, and then we threw in some folks who've done backup vocals for us in the past, and we brought everyone to the party and had them record. So there's quite a number of voices on that track.
and the last song, I Ain't Buying.
Oh, so here's an interesting thing. I would say probably 6 or 7 albums ago, I decided to repurpose a song from an older album that never got the light of day. Like I really liked it, but no one really picked up on it. So I've been doing this for about 6, 7 albums now, and I'll go back in my catalog and pull out a song that I really like but didn't get a lot of airplay, and we rearrange it to our current sound. I Ain't Buying is one of them. So we rearranged it, and then I heard harmonica, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna call up my dear friend Bob Stannard from Manchester, Vermont, and ask him if he would stand in and be featured playing harmonica on the track. I thought, yeah, he willingly did that, and I think it turned out. I think it turned out great. I love the song.
What was the recording process like? The same as other albums, or?
No. Actually, we have gotten to the point where our home studio is very finely equipped. And I had Diego, who is an exceptional recording engineer, do the recording in our home studio. I mean, we still have to send those stems out to our mixing and mastering engineers. But yes, we did this in our home studio for this album. And I think it turned out great.
Oh, it certainly is. Certainly is. Now, this is 2 albums you've got out at the moment.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
I
A
have.
solo album as well?
I do. My first solo album. I was, last year was our 25th anniversary, and I was like, okay, so where do we go from here? And then, I gave another thought. I'm like, well, where do I go from here? And I thought, let me do something I've never done before, and let me put out a solo album and show people kind of what I do, how I express myself vocally in a more stripped down fashion. So people who are in our immediate area, in our local region, have seen me do, smaller, like trio quartet kind of things. So they have heard that voicing from me. And I thought, well, let's let everyone else hear that. So my solo album is just Seth Fleischman on guitar, and then my son Diego pulls double duty on drums and bass. So it is, it is a studio production, clearly, because Diego can't play them both at the same time. But when we go on the road, we intend to at least do a release concert. Rob Tatton will probably sit in on drums, and Diego will go on bass, and Seth will back it up. But it is a vocal forward, obviously, album, not the bigger instrumental productions of Misty Blues. So they're very distinct. I don't think they sound alike.
How did you feel doing it solo without the band? It's quite raw.
Yeah. I was pretty vulnerable. Yeah, it was not, I'm not an extrovert. So, it was a little daunting thinking about that, really putting myself so forward there. When I recorded the song was actually just hours after returning from my mother's funeral. So I was in a very different kind of headspace than I would normally record in. But, when it is hard to schedule things in my life. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to have to keep this time, because if I push it off, it may not ever happen. So I kept a recording schedule. And so it did make for an unusual headspace to record the album. And I think in a lot of ways you can hear that. Yeah, it's pretty raw. It's pretty emotional, I think. Yeah. Also, the interesting thing is I had a different mixing and mastering engineer than on Misty Blues albums. The engineer is Ronan Chris Murphy on the solo album. And Ronan is known as he's engineer and producer for a lot of King Crimson's work.
Something a bit different.
Yeah, yeah.
And you've road tested, obviously, some of the songs on the new album, on the Misty Blues album, because I actually heard you sing them. Yeah. Your UK tour.
Not too long ago.
Not too long ago at all. And how you got up to those notes. I mean, your vocal range is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
It really is. It really is. How do you keep your...
I don't think about it. I'm just motivated by the music,
Right.
Yeah.
And what about a crowd? How do you gauge a crowd?
How do I gauge a crowd?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it depends on it's easier to do in certain venues than others. The more intimate settings, you can really palpably feel an audience and what they're leading into. So I try my best to anticipate what a particular audience may want as I'm developing a set list. But sometimes I have to abandon the set list because the audience is telling me they want something different. Everybody, the guys are flexible. They just like, okay, I know you have a set list, but I also know you, Gina. And if you're hearing something or seeing something, that you will abandon that set list so fast. And then I'm just calling out tunes, and they're great on the fly. We've been doing this for a long time. It's not rocket science for them.
Yeah, the band chemistry is what it's about, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that comes over onto the audience, and the connection is there.
Yes. I think for me, the biggest compliment, aside from the music, is when folks come up to me after a show or at the set break saying, "You guys look like you're having so much fun." And I'm like, 'cause we are. We're just having a great time playing music together. And to me, if it starts to become arduous on stage, something's not right. And there needs to be a course correction. The behind the scenes is certainly arduous. There's no doubt about that. And would I love to offload all of that? Yes. But I'm also not in a financial position to do that. So,
well, yes. If only, yeah?
I know.
If only. Have you any tales of the road that you can tell? Any strange things happen to you?
Oh, that I can tell. Okay, that's gonna be harder.
Yeah,
I mean, I
go
think
on.
no, it was funny thinking about when we were over in Europe just a couple weeks back. All of our shows were fantastic, especially Edinburgh. They were fantastic, wonderful, wonderful people. We just had a great time. We packed most of the houses that we played in throughout our entire tour, but anything and everything that could go wrong in between did. We we were renting homes, we doing, like Airbnb or Verbo, and that's how we didn't stay in any hotels, just so we can stay together, and it was just a bit more economical that way. But really, there wasn't I don't think we went to a city where we didn't have to change accommodation plans at the last minute because something came up, whether or not we were unaware that we couldn't check in at like 2, 3 in the morning after a show. And then was notified that we had lost our reservation because we didn't arrive by 8 p.m. I'm like, oh no, where are we going to stay? So there was just a lot of wrangling that happened then. But there was one town in England where we arrived early to check in to our rental home before we were going to go to the venue. We checked in, and within minutes, a shirtless man appeared at the side door of our Airbnb house, like walked into the house. So the house could not be secured from the outside. So walked in and then started screaming at us that we needed to behave ourselves, not like the former renters, and that if we didn't, he would bring his boys over. I'm like, and so I was upstairs while all of this was transpiring, and I came down and I'm like, what's going on? I hear yelling and screaming and whatever. And I was informed that this had happened. I'm like, okay, so we've been here for like 10 minutes. A neighbor has come in and threatened us, and the house cannot be properly locked down. Is that what you're saying? I just want to get the story straight. And the guys were like, yeah. And I said, pack everything up. So we packed up the house, went to the venue, and I'm like, I'll figure out where we're going to stay later. Yeah. Yeah, nutty stories. But
has that ever happened to you before?
No. So that was an interesting one.
Very.
My saxophonist, you met Aaron Dean. He's no shrinking violet. He's a big boy.
No, he's not. He's a big boy.
Yeah, and this neighbor didn't seem to be at all diffused by his stature. So I'm like, I don't think we want to stay here.
Probably a good decision. Probably a good decision.
Yeah, but everyone looks to me because I'm the boss, and like, well, let's see what Gina says about all this, and I'm like, pack it up.
Get up and go.
Let's go.
Is it difficult being the boss?
Is it what? Is it difficult?
Is it difficult or interesting again?
I know. Well, I think for the most part, the guys just, they have the height of enjoyment. They just need to do what they do best, well, all the time, which is, that's what I ask of them. And then that's fine. They just have to deal with the music, and that's not really dealing. For me, yeah, I have the weight of all the gears. Yes, it can be difficult at times, but I kind of put aside that difficultness because the reward of what happens on that stage is just enormous, and it lingers. And so it does get me through those trying times.
I think we talked about that before, but what you see success as is what you're doing.
Yeah.
And what keeps you motivated? What keeps you doing what you do?
There's a thing I call the brass ring, which I'm sure at some point will become a song. And I don't know if you have that where you are, but there are these carousels You know, the horses
Yes,
that go around,
horses.
and they go up and down, and it's an amusement park ride. But when I was a kid, there was a thing where if you were on one of the outside horses, there was just out of reach was a brass ring. And if you could reach it, you would get a free ride. And so you would lean out as far as you can to try to grab that brass ring. And it was just always just a hair too far. And I'm constantly trying to reach that brass ring. Trying. I'm doing Pilates. I'm stretching out my limbs. But, to me, that brass ring is, the next level of recognition. That is, perhaps the Grammy nomination or the Blues Music Award win. That is the invitation to one of the biggest festivals out there for our genre, or a bucket list venue anywhere in the world. You know, that those are my brass rings. And I'm constantly striving for those. And in doing so, we have to up our game. We have to be on point. We have to be tight. We rehearse. We play tons of shows, and all trying to hone our craft to get to the point where we do garner that next level.
And what's the best advice you've had?
I think Joe Louis Walker, God bless his soul. He was an incredible mentor to me. And he said, don't listen to anyone, girl. Don't listen to anyone. Do what makes sense for you and just keep pushing. Eventually it'll come. But just be true to yourself and don't do things for the sake of doing things. Do what makes sense for you. And I cherish that from someone who was so incredibly prolific, and had, performed with all of the greatest artists out there in blues and otherwise.
And what advice did you give to Ego when he was starting music?
I don't know if it was advice, but I told him, don't ever get it twisted. There's always someone better than you. So don't get full of yourself, because there is always someone better than you. And just put that into perspective. And I also told him that he can be a full-time musician and not to listen to other people who say otherwise. As long as you are willing to have a modest existence, you can provide for yourself. Just follow your passion. And I'm happy that he's able to, right from the beginning of his career, be able to do that.
And what does blues mean to you as an artist?
It's kind of life-sustaining for me. My ability to share my emotions in this kind of art form is my own personal therapy. Being able to express myself fully through the music is something that I don't think I would be able to do any other way. And I'm glad that I have this vehicle.
And what about the future? What's other projects, other albums?
Other albums. Colin, come on now. I could write 3 more albums. I could record 3 more albums this year.
I know.
Always material. I have written at least enough songs at this very moment to put out 4 or 5 more albums right now. But it's about timing. It's about what songs go best with each other, what makes sense, what kind of direction I want to go with this next one. I do have but there are 2 projects that I'm trying to hone in on. The first one is, actually have started this. I'm looking to write an anthology on the Queens of the Blues. That is a kind of like a young adult reader. I want to really garner a younger audience for the history of women in the blues. And obviously it's going to be from my perspective. It'll be, women that have had a great influence on me. And I think I can tell stories about their lives that might be interesting to some younger folks. So that's, I'm starting the writing process right now. It's not too arduous because I do have a podcast called Queens of the Blues that I write scripts for. So it's about, compiling them in a way that makes sense. And then musically, I have always wanted to record an album with either a big band or an orchestra. And I think, yeah, yeah, I'm honing in on that one. I'm honing in on that one. So, be on the lookout.
Excellent.
Yeah,
That sounds interesting as well.
I know, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
That's gonna be hard to put on
And
the road, though.
could be, especially an orchestra, maybe a quartet or something. Have you anything to say to the Blues Matters readership? What have you to say?
Yeah, I mean, we're here. We're doing really fun and innovative music, and check us out. And if you heard us way back and we weren't your cup of tea, give us another listen because we have evolved as musicians. And I think we're putting in good, honest work and really enjoying what we're doing, and hopefully that translates to what you hear.
Excellent, fantastic.
Thank
Great
you.
meeting you again so soon.